Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler, and in today's video, I want to talk about 40 books that I want to read before I turn 40. I'm turning 35 this year, so I've got roughly 5 years to tackle this list of 40 books, and I know that there are going to be other books that pop in and out of my TBR as I go through the next 5 years. But these are 40 that I want to lock in, that I want to say I am going to, over the next 5 years, read these books, hopefully cover them on this channel, and we can talk about them, review them, go through them together. But I've broken this video into 3 different categories. The first category is series. And so the series that I want to read as a sci-fi and fantasy reader are going to take up 27 spots on the list. But I'm going to talk about the 4 different series at the beginning and the different spaces that they take up. Then the next section I've titled the classics, and that's going to take up a pretty good chunk too. These are classic sci-fi and fantasy and just classic books that I want to read that I'll get into in just a few minutes. And then the last category is 3 books, and I've decided to title it just because. They're 3 books that I want to read because I want to read them. And so I want to jump right in and talk about these 40 books that I want to read before I turn 40. The first series on the list, it takes up 14 slots. And if you've been on this channel, you've probably heard me talk about it, but it is The Wheel of Time. And so the first book on the list is The Eye of the World. This is Robert Jordan's series. I have heard that this is just classic fantasy through and through. Thousands and thousands of pages of adventure, of storytelling. I have heard that things that happen in the first book are foreshadowing and foretelling what's going to happen in the very end of the series in book 14. Sign me up. I can't wait. But also, I'm super intimidated by this book series. And so at some point by the end of this year, I want to start Eye of the World and start this journey of reading through all these books. And I don't know how long it's going to take me. Ideally, before I turn 40, I will have read The Wheel of Time. But that's the first 14 slots on the list. So the next series, I don't have copies of it, but it takes up slots 15 through 18. And it is The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. This year I've discovered John Gwynne, and I've read 2 of his books so far. I've read Shadow of the Gods and Hunger of the Gods. And I have loved everything about John Gwynne's writing. He writes characters so well. He builds the world so well. He writes action unlike pretty much anybody I've ever read up to this point in my reading journey. And so Faithful and the Fallen is the series that really got it started for him before the Bloodsworn trilogy, which I'm reading right now. And so excited to read another series that is beloved by his fans, and I'm pretty much convinced I'm going to love it because I've already loved the first 2 books that I've read from him, and so excited to read those. All right, so we've already covered 18 slots, but slots 19, 20, and 21, these are going to go to my boy, Brandon Sanderson. This is for Oathbringer, Rhythm of War, and Wind and Truth. Over the last couple of years, I've read The Way of Kings, which I really, really loved, and I read Words of Radiance, which was also really good. And I'd read about 8 or 9 Brandon Sanderson books, and then I think I just kind of needed a little bit of a break, needed a breather, was really interested in other authors and other books. And I've had to remind myself that he didn't write all of these books for me to read them in just a couple months or a year. And so I have just taken a break from the Stormlight Archive, but I'm excited to go back. These books take me a long time. And so I know whenever I decide to pick up Oathbringer, it's going to take me probably a month and a half to read through this series. I don't want to miss anything. And so as I read through these books, I know it'll take time, but I do want to finish the story and get caught up. I know there's mixed reviews on how it ends, but I'm excited to determine for myself what I think of it. And so one more series on the list. I don't have these books, but I have a book series that is in correlation to it. And the series that I want to read is books numbers 22 through 27 on this list, but it is the Rhaeria Chronicles. So I've read Rhaeria Revelations, which is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. The first book in this series, The Theft of Swords, is my favorite book of all time by Michael J. Sullivan and in general. But he wrote before or after these books, but taking place before these books, 6 books called Rhaeria Chronicles, and they follow Hadrian and Royce as their friendship and their business as thieves continues to grow, and it's these different adventures that they go on. And so when we meet them in Theft of Swords, they are already established as best friends. They obviously have witty banter. They're very different personalities, but reading Chronicles gives you all the backstory of how they went from enemies to becoming best friends that would do anything, would die for each other. And so I'm reading these books by Mr. Sullivan in the order that he published them and the order he recommended. So I have Rhaeria Chronicles next up on the list for me at some point in his world of Elan, and I cannot wait to read more Royce and Hadrian adventures. If you have not read this series, you gotta pick it up, gotta read. Nobody writes two best friends better than Michael J. Sullivan does. But those are the series on the list so far. So we've already covered 27 of the spots just based on series. I guess that's what happens when you love fantasy books, is it takes up a lot of time and a lot of spots because the stories are so in depth. But the next section I want to talk about is the classics. A lot of the reading that I've done so far in my reading journey over the last few years has all been pretty much modern fantasy, modern sci-fi, modern storytelling, with an occasional classic in there, but not a ton. And so what I really want to try and do over the next couple of years is read the books that inspired the books that I've been reading now. And so reading some of these classic works that have been transformational in the authors that I like and have enjoyed their stories, and to just see like what paved the way to get us to where we are. And the first book up, number 28. Super intimidating to me, but excited to finally read it. And that's The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. I love The Lord of the Rings, my favorite trilogy of all time, easily. And I have listened to Nerd of the Rings on YouTube talk for countless hours about The Silmarillion. He is an incredible storyteller, and how he talks about Tolkien's world and all of the history behind it. But I want to read it for myself, and so I really want to jump into that book at some point. I know it is like a historical textbook, but it's in Middle-earth. What doesn't get better than that, right? So that's number 28 on the list. Number 29, I am excited that this book might be the first book on this list of 40 that gets checked off. Because right now on the channel, we are having a vote for one of my June TBR reads, and it is currently in the lead. And so number 29 on the list is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is classic sci-fi through and through. I've heard nothing but praise for this book. And so I want to read all 4 books on the vote. Another one of them, I believe, is on this list later, but I really want to read this book. And so I'm okay with it being in first right now on the list and getting to check it off, but just excited to read some classic sci-fi. I've heard nothing but great things, like I said, about Hyperion, and so excited to give this book a read. The next one up, number 30, we're getting close, we're making it through. Number 30 is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I've obviously heard a lot of YouTubers talk about this book. Many of them say it is a classic. It is so good, one of their favorite books. But I was having coffee with a friend the other day, and he had told me that he had just read it and that it became one of his favorite books. And so I trust him. I'm like, okay, it's got to be on the TBR, got to be on the list before I turn 40. And so at some point wanting to read East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And 31 is also not one that is never talked about on BookTube. It's actually talked about all the time. Number 31 is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I'm a big Mike's Book Reviews guy, and he is a massive Lonesome Dove fan. I think he just wrapped up the whole book series that Larry McMurtry wrote covering these characters. And so I want to see what the hype is about, because everybody who reads it says it's one of the best books ever written. And so at some point, going to pick that one up. I know it's a pretty thick book too, But again, if you hear all great things from people you trust, why wouldn't you give it a shot? Why wouldn't you pick it up and read it? So number 32 on the list, very different, but a classic nonetheless. It's a sci-fi story. It is The Truth by Terry Pratchett. This comes out of the Discworld universe. I have read no Discworld novels, but have heard about Terry Pratchett's writing, his witty banter, his way that he talks about our society and about people through this world that he has created. And so I'm excited to read The Truth because Brandon Sanderson said that it is one of his favorite books of all time. And so if an author that you really enjoy says this is one of the best books they've ever read, then I'm like, all right, I want to read it. I want to know why he loves this book so much. And so definitely want to read The Truth by Mr. Terry Pratchett at some point over the next 5 years. So number 33 on the list, again, we're kind of hitting some big classics, but also very different from what comes before it. Number 33 is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. My wife has read this book. I have 3 daughters, and so it only feels fitting. I know it covers 4 daughters, but it only feels fitting that I would read Little Women just to, relate to the story of what it's like raising girls and being a girl dad. And so I'm already convinced I'm going to need a box of tissues next to me. I'm probably going to be crying the whole time I'm reading it. But at some point I want to read that book just because I can relate. I live in a house of women right now. And so wanting to read that. 34, another classic, but hard detour from Little Women to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Classic, sci-fi, witty, fun, something to laugh at. Can't wait. I love any time I can laugh when I'm reading a story that is just lighthearted and fun and enjoyable. So definitely want to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Number 35, classic, War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I think at some point I've heard a radio podcast or a radio recording that my dad played for me of War of the Worlds at some point or something like it. And so very interested in the story, just hearing how they would write like end of the world, aliens invading a long time ago and classic sense. And so excited to read that one as well. Number 36 on the list, getting close to the end. Number 36 is The Dragon Bone Chair by Tad Williams. This is the first book in a trilogy, but the main reason I want to read this is because many fantasy authors have said that this trilogy was extremely influential in their writing. People like John Gwynne, I believe, has said this. George R.R. Martin has said this, and a lot of booktubers like this series. And so I'm just excited to read a series that comes with such high praise. Trilogy, easy to digest in the sense that it's only 3 books, but excited to just read classic fantasy that has been so influential in the modern authors and what I have been reading. And so number 37. This is a classic in my mind. I don't know that everybody would label it as a classic. And this one's sentimental to me because I want to read it with my kids, but Redwall by Brian Jacques and some of the other books in that series. I think at some point in middle school, a teacher read us in class, or maybe even elementary school, read us some of Redwall or one of those books. But I mean, just whimsical, fun, similar to a Narnia, Lord of the Rings, books that I want to read with my kids as they continue to grow up and turn into readers like I've become, like my wife has always been. And so I really want to read Redwall with them or to them at some point before I turn 40. So those are the classics. We've made it to the final 3 books, and these are in the category of just because I want to read them, and I put them on the list. But the first one, number 38, is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I've heard this is a fantasy heist type story, part of the Gentleman Bastards book series, and so have heard nothing but great things about it. I love the idea of a heist. I love the first Mistborn book so much. Another one of my favorites. And so just intrigued by the story, by the idea of it. I know it sets up other books, but I definitely want to give the first one a shot. And so then number 39 is The Martian by Andy Weir. Most people would say, and what I've heard, is that they think Project Hail Mary is even better. Well, I haven't read it yet, but I love The Martian, the movie, so much. I have watched this movie countless times. Anytime I'm on a plane, it is an option to watch, and so I watch it. I own it on DVD. I watch it all the time. I love this movie. I love Mark Watney's character. I love all the casting in it so much, and so I just want to read the book, to read the source material that influenced it, because I just love the resilience that Mark Watney has to survive on Mars, all of Earth banding together to try to figure out how to get him back, and then just the hope that comes out of this story. And so it's already a story I know because of the movie, but I'm excited to see how the book is similar and different along the way. And then number 40. It's kind of a cheat because it's number 40, but then it's going to set up a series that I want to read as well. So maybe I should have put it up at the beginning of the video, but it is Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron. Like so many people my age, I grew up loving Star Wars, playing with Star Wars action figures and Legos, watching the movies countless times, fighting with lightsabers in the backyard with my brother, making up my own Star Wars adventures along the way. I was not a reader, and so I never read these books when they were expanded universe, when they were canon in the Star Wars world. Now they're legends, but I don't care. I want to read them. I want to read these stories that I think capture the magic of Star Wars. And so I am excited to read this series that follows this group of X-Wing pilots and basically doing what I dreamed of doing, flying an X-Wing and fighting the Empire. And so I'm really excited to read this. If you've made it to the end of this video, you are amazing. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed yet, that would mean so much to me if you click the subscribe button just to follow along on this reading journey with me. Hopefully, as I'm reading through these books, doing reviews, let me know if you have a list of your own. Do you have a list of certain books that you want to read before you turn a certain age? And also let me know if you have read any of the books on these lists. Are there any that I put on here that you're like, man, I cannot believe he put that. That's a terrible book. I hated that book. Let me know. Let me know if you're like, wow, I've read all those books. I love all those books so much. Or if you've read none of them. Just would love to talk to you about it in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Excited to go start reading some books and get these read over the next 5 years.